welcome to the show. Today I'm going to talk about two Richard Brooks Western films, The Professionals and Bite the Bullet. Now, Richard Brooks made a lot of different films, a lot of different genres. He was all over the place. He did In Cold Blood. He did Looking for Mr. Goodbar. He was basically a director who didn't like it stuck in one genre. So he'd do satires, he would do dramas, and he would get a lot of studio support because his films tended to make money, at least for a time, and they were critically acclaimed mostly. But his peak period was in the 50s and 60s. In the 70s, he still did some good work, but it was starting to fall away a little bit. And he had a reputation of being difficult to work with and being a bit of a taskmaster and, just being a perfectionist and a bit of a pain in the arse, really. But he did two westerns, which I really like. Both of them are flawed. Brooks was not a kind of the level of a Stanley Kubrick, or a Peckinpah. He was not the kind of fascinating director who could take genres and twist them into really fascinating new things. Now, he did, tweaks on westerns and tweaks in genres and did his own thing. And he brought some intelligence to them. He brought a lot of characterization to the parts. And he'd hire good actors. But these are not going to be revisionist genre films. These were much more like a director who liked the genre and wanted to do a genre film, but try and bring something to it, like research the time period and do interesting things with it. And it's funny because this film, it's not Bite the Bullet's not a sequel, but the character played by Gene Hackman in Bite the Bullet is a guy who's into horses and deals with horses all the time. And Robert Ryan in Professionals is that kind of character, but he's kind of underwritten. And it almost feels like Brooks kind of liked that character, but wish he'd done more with him, and then he expanded it into Bite the Bullet. So it's that kind of elements of there is a kind of connection beyond the director, who also wrote these films. So The Professional is basically the kind of going over the border, Americans going over the border for escapade that Peckinpah a few years after this was going to just totally redo with Wild Bunch and make it much more cynical. And at this point, both films have Robert Ryan in them. Robert Ryan's in this film is a kind of quiet character, and in The Wild Bunch, he's one of the central characters. And that's the kind of big difference. Robert Ryan's used a lot better in Wild Bunch. But this film has its pleasures. It is a film with a twist where basically, because these are old films, so if you've not seen them, tough. But the thing I'm going to talk about, most of the stuff came up in the trailer, so it's not like a big deal. I'm sure if you see a plot description, the basic thing is you'll know this twist is, in fact, they're saving someone who doesn't want to be saved. Like the person they're working for, basically this woman, these professionals are told, has been kidnapped by this Mexican who's holding her for ransom. Which is true, but she went with them because they're trying to get money out of this guy because he's a rich guy who's a total scumbag who has ruined Mexico for lots of people to make money for himself, played by Ralph Bellamy, who usually plays nice guys. And he's a terrible person, and then they basically will hold his wife to ransom, but she wants to be held for ransom, and she'll go back to him if they give the money and live out a depressed life if they get the money. Instead, Bellamy is a cheap bastard, and he sends professionals in to do it. For half the cost of the money he'd have to spend to get his wife back, he hires 4 people to go save her instead. Because he can't send an army in to save his wife, so he sends in some professionals. So it's basically Lee Marvin as the leader. He's a guy who used to help the Mexican revolutionaries. He was a believer, and now he's burnt out. Doesn't believe in anything. He just is now selling his skills to various people and training people. But he's a burnout. He's just sick of everything. Total cynic. Perfect Lee Marvin character. Then there's Burt Lancaster's character, who's also a cynic, but he's much more wild about it. He's self-destructing throughout Texas. He's getting into trouble. He's sleeping with people's wives. he's just chaos. And Marvin realizes he needs this guy who's good with explosives to pull this off. There's also Woody Strode, who's the kind of tracker, who's good with arrows. He's like the guy they send out to go in front of them and see if anyone's chasing them and things like that. He's like the loner. And then there's Robert Ryan, who deals with the horses and deals with the supplies because he's good at all that stuff. And Robert Ryan's character is the one who's less experienced. Like Woody Strode, Lee Marvin, Burt Lancaster, they play characters who've been in this situation tons of times. They know everything. They're so cynical about everything. They do not trust anybody. They've been burnt before. And Robert Ryan, even though he's worked with horses and he's worked with people, he still has elements of humanity to him. He does not want to hurt people. He's not an awful person like the other three probably are. You know, although Woody Strode keeps himself mainly. And he just keeps away from society. For good reason, because he's black and a racist country. He probably keeps himself a lot. So these four professionals go down to Mexico to save their wife. And the first half of the movie is them getting together, getting an assignment, and then basically traveling. And they realise they're getting tracked and they have to kill those people who are tracking them, and they have to slowly but surely worm their way into the situation to get the wife out. And that's the first half of the movie. The second half of the movie is getting back to America from Mexico with the wife and realising that she doesn't want to get rescued. And it turns out the person they're trying to take the wife from, they know the guy. He's played by Jack Palance as a Mexican, yeah. But Palance really plays it up. Apparently he was method acting through the whole movie, driving everyone nuts. But that's what you expect from Jack Palance. You had Jack Palance for this kind of part. What do you expect? So, he's coming out after them full beam because he really loves her. Played by Courtney Cardinal. This was not long before she did Once Upon a Time in the West, so she's still fairly young. And everything's really well set up. The first half, you get a sense of the abilities of our team of professionals. Lee Marvin is the tactician. No one actually ever questions what he's doing, but they will offer, what about this? And he will listen to them if he thinks it's a good idea. So he's not like my way, the highway. It's like, this is the best way to do it. And if someone offers a way, maybe there's this way as well, and if it's a good idea, he'll take it. He's not like a total, my way, the highway guy. And Marvin's the best part of the film, which is funny because he was apparently drunk for most of it. And him and Lancaster did not get on. And because Lancaster was professional, total pro, knew his lines, everything was ready, prepared in advance. And Lee Marvin came in, was drunk a lot, and he gave the best performance. Which must have been really great for Lancaster. Because Lancaster was an intelligent guy. He must have known that Marvin was blowing him off the screen by doing almost nothing. Because Lancaster in this film is entertaining, but he's too much. It's like the director did not find a way to tone him down to the level of menace and cynicism, and because he knows this is an entertainment film, this is a big entertainment film, he has to be the entertainment guy. But he'd made The Train just before this, which was also an entertainment film which he knew was there to make money, where he was much better and much more controlled, but still being entertaining. Directed by John Frankenheimer. And this one, Lee Marvin's doing the controlled bit, he's doing the big acting bit, but he's hamming it up a little bit too much, and it feels like Brooks could not get him down, or Brooks liked the takes where he was Wilder. I mean, it could have been he did subtler takes and Wilder takes, and Brooks liked the Wilder takes. That could have happened too, but in the film, it's a bit of a balance. He does feel like he's too much sometimes. There are points where it's like, I like Burt Lancaster a lot as an actor. He's been great in lots of films. And it's rarely you see him being this over the top and this, hammy. He can be hammy in films, but usually to good effect. In this one, he's a bit too much. So I'm not sure if it's the director or him just not getting the part, because it just feels like it's a bit off. Still entertaining, but when you get to the second half, the first half it works fine enough because they're doing the tactical thing. You're figuring out who's who and all the rest of it. You get to the second half, he has a bit more dialogue and has some face off with people. Sometimes it's like, take it down a little bit. You're actually ruining the tension by going as far as you're going. So there's that element that's a kind of slight flaw in the film, as Lancaster's a bit much. And Robert Ryan is not given enough to do. Woody Strode's not given enough to do, but he does it really well. Robert Ryan's given a weak part, and he does his best with what he's given, but it feels that the writing of this part is not quite there. It's like, it's set up as, we set him up as, yep, he's the guy who's a humanist, and he does things that are normal for the audience. And then the film kind of sells him down the river as not being good enough, when in fact, he's meant to be the audience figure. And it's a writing inconsistency that's, you see him learning as he goes along to be a bit more cynical about dealing with people. But it's not quite written as well. And because Robert Ryan's such a good actor, he plays the best he can, but he's not getting the best part. Again, we see him in Wild Bunch a few years later. He's got that part and he's great. You've seen him a lot of earlier films, he's got those parts and he's great. Just in this one, it's not quite. It's feeling like this part wasn't amazing, so we'll hire Robert Ryan to do it because he'll probably fill in the stuff we need. And he does, but the writing of it kind of is a little bit, lax. But those are the downsides. The upsides is it's got a great structure and it works really well. Just the whole idea is that the first half, they're going to the location to rescue the girl. The second half, they're trying to escape from the path of the army behind them. It just works. It just delivers entirely on what you want from an action adventure movie from the 60s with some great movie star actors. But Marvin steals it because he just plays everything quiet. See, he's one of those things where he's thinking. You don't know what he's thinking sometimes, but he's thinking because Lee Marvin's always thinking on screen. And he's just so good. And he was just doing this not long before he went on to do Point Blank, which was his great part. So this is not the same level as Point Blank, but it's kind of that same kind of bruised, tough figure, but it's not quite as expressive as Point Blank. But in this one, there is a sense he's haunted. He's really haunted by his experiences, and he's not going to talk about it because he can't put into words what's haunting him. And he puts up with Lancaster because Lancaster is dealing with the same trauma in a different way, and they kind of trust each other even though sometimes they kind of annoy each other. But that's the kind of thing that works in the film. And most of the film does work, it's just these are nitpicks. The second one, Bite the Bullet, is one I like more. Even though it has a few more flaws, I think, the flaws don't really matter. I mean, it's about a 700-mile horseback race over America, based at the beginning of the 20th century. It's Gene Hackman, James Coburn, Candice Bergman, Ben Johnson, Jan Michael Vincent, Ian Bannon. There's a lot of really good actors here doing good work. And basically, it is a character piece of these guys going on this journey. Hackman plays a guy who was originally not meant to be in the race. He was just bringing the horse to the race, basically. But the rich guy who's bringing the horse to get annoyed with him because he missed the train and fired him. So he's a bit miffed because he didn't get his money. And then he thinks this horse race is inhumane, but he decides to go on it anyway. And he's one of those figures who's very mysterious of what he wants and what he's about, and that's what really works. And he has been friends with Coburn, who plays a guy who's much more expressive and much more, explosive. So he's kind of the Burt Lancaster part, and Gene Hackman's got the Lee Marvin part in this one, because it has the same dynamic at the centre of it. And this dynamic works a bit better for me, I think, is Gene Hackman and Lee Marvin are probably on par with how good they are in these films. Both of them are great, these films. Both are very humane. They've got a lot of nuance. There's lots of stuff that they say, and there's lots of stuff they don't say that actually creates more mystery to them. They did really work these parts. James Coburn's better than Burt Lancaster, even though he's got less to do than Burt Lancaster did in The Professionals. In this one, he's the part that's kind of underwritten a little bit. Oh, there was some scenes taken out. But Coburn being Coburn fills it in with a lot of stuff, a lot of Coburnisms, and you still get a sense of character, and the character is described as the world's most fun loser. In other words, they all expect him to lose eventually again because he's making money now. He's running out of money. He needs to do this race to get some money again. But as he goes down, he's always going to go down with a smile. It's a very James Coburn part. And they're the kind of centre base, even though they're competitors. They view each other with some sort of with respect, and they pretty much figure they're in the long term of this race. They're going to let the show off start off and mess up, but they figure they're going to be the two that are going to be the last two. So they play it cool for a lot of the film. You've got other characters. Jan Michael Vincent plays a kid who's trying to prove himself, but he's trying too hard, and he's cruel, and he's trying to pick fights, and he's fast in the gun, but he's not. He's just trying to prove himself too much. This part, the arc is good, but it's compressed, a little bit compressed. There's lots of good scenes, but his redemption is a bit fast. But it doesn't matter because it's done charmingly anyway. But objectively, it's not a bit fast. But the acting's good, the chemistry between all the actors is good, and the way that Hackman gets him to change his tune is really brutal. So there's a lot of great scenes there. It's just, it feels like it's compressed a little bit. Ian Bannon's great as a guy who's on the journey because he likes to do adventures. He's an English guy, even though Bannon's Scottish. So it's quite fun watching his accent. And he's an adventurer. He likes to do this kind of stuff. There's a Mexican guy who's also doing it for the money, and he's got a bad tooth. Candice Bergman's doing it. Everyone's like, why is a woman doing it? But she's doing it for her own reasons. Which leads to the other flaw in the film. Her reasons for doing it ultimately are a bit weak. And they lead to an action scene later on that the film doesn't need. It's enjoyable, but the film doesn't need it. And that's that, and the compression of Jan Michael Vincent part or arc are the two kind of things that are a bit weak about the film. But it doesn't matter ultimately. A lot of it's just about the atmosphere and the pacing of it. It's the idea of this race is so long and everybody in it makes horrible mistakes because it's such a taxing journey. And your horse can get killed easily for the simplest of reasons. And there's all sorts of circumstances that will cause havoc for anybody. And it's like and the film understands the absurdity of the race. This race is absurd. It's made by rich people to prove themselves. And Hackman wants the money, but he also wants to just prove it to Richmond. You can't buy a success. And Coburn needs the money to survive. And they have a much more humane and interesting relationship. And the fact that this guy who works for the money men, who's riding for the money men to win it, they kind of hate him, and it's like them versus him, and that's a very satisfying arc for the film to be on throughout. And the ending is very satisfying. How they kind of bring all the characters together is very satisfying. Ben Johnson, some great scenes as well. I won't say what they are, but they are terrific. There's just a whole lot of good stuff going on. It's just a great to see this atmosphere of this time in the world that isn't covered much in films, because it's not the Wild West. It's the guys who followed the Wild West, who started out as young people during the Wild West era, and now are older and have arthritis and bad hearts and stuff, and they're, they have to make a living in a world that's not very fair, and all these rich people have made their money and they're controlling the world. So it's a world that's very compromised. So, but it is a wonderful film all about that, and it's just the atmosphere. That's what really gets you in. I saw this film years ago and loved it, and whenever you watched it recently, I loved it again. This is just really good. You can get it on iTunes, and I think you can get it on Amazon. You also can buy it on disc in one of the European Amazons. I think it's Amazon Germany. which I'd recommend because it's a nice little film, and also the quality of the print is quite nice on that edition. And you get English as well, so it's fine. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this encouraged you to go and watch these two films that are not talked about enough. So they're flawed, but they're very enjoyable. So that's me for now. Bye.